Raoul, the regulation bill is now moving towards its final readings in the Parliament. Is it a done deal that it's going to pass? How do you see that playing out?
Well, in the Knesset, nothing's a done deal until it's actually received the votes and passed into law. This is a bill that has taken a long time, has been pushed off at a number of key moments, and we're still waiting for final word that it's actually going to take place. The vote has been set, but there's questions within the coalition if they're potentially trying to push it off, either to bury the bill completely or to rework it so that it could pass through the Supreme Court, as many people have suggested that it in its current state would not be would not meet the criteria that the Supreme Court would require.
In your own words, how would you describe to viewers what this law actually means?
Well, the law came about from the very beginning of this coalition. The coalition, when it was being formed in early 2015, one of the sticking points for the Jewish Home, the religious Zionist party, to join was, they said, this will be a government, we will only join if there's no further house demolitions or destroying Jewish settlements. And Amona was already on people's lips then. It was just 2 months after the Supreme Court had said they had 2 years to destroy, to evacuate the settlement. And from those very early moments, that was when the idea of this bill came into place, as a real effort to prevent the Amona evacuation. Over time, it became a broader bill that would allow other settlements to continue, other outposts that have not been regulated by law up to this point. And even though Amona has now been evacuated, there's effort to push this forward in a way to sort of compensate the fact that Amona was evacuated, by saying now all other situations like this would not take place.
Well, let's say the day after this bill is adopted. What does it mean on the ground?
It would mean that outposts, settlements in the West Bank that are not officially recognized by Israel as settlements, if there is building in those outposts, houses that there are claims to by private Palestinian owners that say, we own this land, this was a field that my family owned, that we a number of years ago worked. In those specific cases, as opposed to the situation at the moment where the Supreme Court could say these houses have to be destroyed to allow the Palestinians to have access to their land, the Palestinians would be compensated in a similar situation to how within Israel, within the Green Line, or within Tel Aviv,
Israel proper.
Yeah, they, if someone extends their porch and it turns out that it's in someone else's property, you won't have to destroy that building. You'll have to compensate the other party. It would apply that law to these specific circumstances and effectively would legalize these outposts, even though they're not recognized as official Israeli settlements. It would say that any building that takes place on this in these areas from now on wouldn't be subject to a law to evacuate them or demolish these buildings. They would just have to compensate the Palestinians that claim it's their land.
Many expert commentators have been speculating, even in advance of the bill passing, that it will never stand up in the Supreme Court. In fact, the Israeli Attorney General has said himself, I will not be able to defend this in the Supreme Court. So why pass a bill that has no chance of lasting?
Well, firstly, there have been situations in the past where the Attorney General has said he would not be able to defend a bill, it will not pass the Supreme Court, and it has. And that the people pushing this bill are using those as examples now, saying even though the Attorney General says it won't pass, maybe it will. We can't necessarily just negate this bill just because of that. Even if it were to be sure to be overruled by the Supreme Court, there's a certain public relations message that's being put forward here by the Jewish Home Party, by the Likud, who have, under their watch, have evacuated the Amona settlement, contentious area, contentious move, and they're able to say, look, we've tried everything, we've pushed forward this bill, maybe the Supreme Court hasn't allowed it, but we tried everything. And there might even be a potentially malicious effort against the Supreme Court in that respect by perhaps wanting the fight with the Supreme Court to say, look, we, the elected officials of Israel, the right-wing government, are trying everything, but there are certain people who are holding us back. That might be the left, the media establishment, represented by this small group that is the Supreme Court.